Appeal to heaven flag to a number of conservative figures over the years. He gave one to former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin. He wrapped a conservative candidate for Indiana governor in the flag earlier this year. But even if Sheets isn't the one gifting it, this flag is very much in circulation. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson has displayed one of those flags outside of his congressional office. In October of 2020, Donald Trump attended a megachurch service in Las Vegas where he was presented with his own appeal to heaven flag. It's flown somewhat under the radar for a lot of people, or maybe most people, but in the past decade, the appeal to heaven flag has come to be associated with the Christian nationalist movement here in America. And since November of 2020, it has come to be associated with the efforts to overturn the 2020 election, which is what makes this all so shocking. Here's the New York Times headline from just a few hours ago. Another provocative flag was flown at another Alito home. Photographs obtained by the Times on 4 separate dates show that the appeal to heaven flag was flown over the New Jersey vacation home of Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito in the summer of 2023. This was not done surreptitiously. You can see it on Google Street View. Here's the picture of the house that was taken last August. A Supreme Court justice proudly flying the flag of Christian fundamentalists and government insurrectionists in front of his home in daylight for everyone to see, even Google. And it's not the first time. 5 days ago, the New York Times discovered that another symbol of the January 6th movement, an upside-down American flag, flew over Justice Alito's home days after the Capitol insurrection. Now, Justice Alito blamed that incident on his wife, saying she ran the flag up the pole during a dispute with their neighbors, which is decidedly not a normal thing. But did anyone really expect that there were more flags to come? How many houses do the Alitos have? For the record, Justice Alito has not yet given an explanation as to why yet another flag associated with the insurrection is flying over yet another one of his homes. And it should be noted that at the time this appeal to heaven flag was flying over the justice's home, the Supreme Court was actively considering cases involving January 6 defendants. In August of 2023, several January 6 defendants had informed the Supreme Court of their intention to challenge the constitutionality of a federal crime they'd been charged with, obstruction of an official proceeding. It's a crime that Donald Trump has also been charged with by the special counsel's office. And when that case finally came before the court for oral arguments, this was the tenor of Justice Alito's questions.
So we've had a number of protests in the courtroom. Let's say that today 5 people get up, one after the other, and they shout either keep the January 6th insurrectionists in jail or free the January 6th patriots. And as a result of this, our police officers have to remove them forcibly from the courtroom. Would that be a violation?
I think it's in a fundamentally different posture than if they had stormed into this courtroom, overrun the Supreme Court police, required the justices and other participants to flee for their safety, and done so with clear evidence of intent to obstruct.
Absolutely. What happened on January 6th was very, very serious, and I'm not equating this with that.
What happened on January 6th was very, very serious. So says the man who had a flag associated with that insurrection flying over at least 2 of his properties. The New York Times reports that when they visited Justice Alito's vacation house on Wednesday of this week, the flagpole was bare. So the flag is now gone, but the work of this court continues. Joining me now is Michelle Goldberg, New York Times opinion columnist and author of Kingdom Coming, The Rise of Christian Nationalism. Also with me, Mark Joseph Stern, Slate Magazine senior writer covering the courts and the law. Thank you both for being here. Michelle, what was your reaction when you saw this headline?
I mean, on the one hand, completely predictable, right? Justice Alito is exactly the person that a lot of us
fly one flag, fly another flag.
Right. And he is, I mean, my colleague Jamel Bowie wrote this column about how he's a true believer, right? He's not a Fox News producer. He's a Fox News watcher. He's, you know, he has kind of very similar opinions, I think, to a lot of other crankish men in their 70s. He just happens to have lifetime unaccountable power over the Constitution of the United States and has been extremely contemptuous of any efforts to not just rein in that power, but to enact a code of ethics, on the Supreme Court. It's worth pointing out that the Supreme Court just under, pressure, just adopted a code of ethics that said that justices should recuse themselves. I don't know if I'm going to get the language exactly right, but I think when it can be reasonably inferred, yes, that when there might be reasonable doubts about their impartiality, something to that effect. How can anyone reasonably believe that Justice Alito is remotely capable of being impartial on around a cause that he cannot resist, that he feels so strongly about, that he cannot restrain himself from, flying banners over multiple properties?
Mark, Justice Alito's wife was blamed for the first flag incident. I thought it was very telling that the justice had nothing to say to the New York Times when asked for comment. What is your sort of immediate assessment of how damaging this is to the court?
Well, I think the justice was caught red-handed on this one, is not going to be able to shove off blame to his wife. My immediate reaction is that this is, of course, a terrible look for Alito, a terrible look for the Supreme Court, on the eve of yet another day when the justices will be handing down opinions. Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., we will be getting major opinions in cases that could involve things like abortion and gun control, and Alito may well be providing the deciding vote in some of those cases. And the nation will now know that the guy who tipped the scales one way or the other in some of those cases also flew a flag intimately associated with the insurrection at his beach house. But I just want to say, I feel like what's so damning here is that Justice Alito has clearly broken the sort of implicit contract that the Supreme Court makes with the United States of America and its citizenry. The Supreme Court justices are supposed to act with dignity and honor and impartiality, not just because they derive their legitimacy from all of that, from their black robes, the simple black robes that show they're just normal judges dispensing justice, but because when they go badly awry, we can't do anything about it. We can't vote them out of office. We can't recall them. There's virtually nothing that the American people can do about a justice who's gone as lawless and rogue as Sam Alito evidently has. And so it almost sort of, it can be compared to the British monarchy. The reason that it still exists in its current form is because Queen Elizabeth was able to preserve this image of integrity and decency for so long, and the public respected it. Alito is shattering those efforts by the rest of the Supreme Court, or some of the rest of the Supreme Court. It's not going to lead to a good place for them because, again, that really is the only place they derive their power from. They don't have an army to enforce their decisions. When they lose respect, they lose authority.
Yeah, that's such a good point, Mark. I mean, it almost feels like he's doing it because he can, because he knows that there is no accountability.
Right.
It is owning the libs in the most spectacular fashion.
Right. I mean, it's like, who's going to stop me? I mean, I noticed that two of the things that Mark said, he talked about the implicit bargain that the Supreme Court has with the United States, but with the American people. But part of Trumpism has always been to disregard all of those implicit bargains, right? All of those norms. It's always been, who's going to stop me? And so, Justice Alito clearly could care less about whether his exercise of power is seen as legitimate in the eyes of people who disagree with him. And I think that is where it ties in. Justice Alito is a Catholic. The New Apostolic Reformation is a kind of species of Pentecostalism. But in as much as they see a kind of right to rule for certain citizens with certain beliefs and a kind of, a lesser sort of citizenship for everyone else, I think it very much fits in with this. Who cares? It doesn't matter if you think I'm fair or just or my authority is well exercised. I have it, you don't.
Not even trying to cloak it in some other sort of broader notion of jurisprudence. Mark, the assumption at this current hour is that not much can be done about this. We know that Chuck Schumer, I believe this was earlier today, before this New York Times story broke, suggested that he is discussing where to go from here with Senator Dick Durbin, who is the chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee. But practically speaking, I mean, all roads lead to John Roberts. If anything is meaningful is actually going to be done, or do you think Congress can enact something? And I say that with an eye roll, not intentionally, but reflexively.
Well, I know some House Democrats are saying if they take back a majority that they will hold hearings on this, they will investigate. I think that is a positive step for anyone who wants accountability here. I think it's very unfortunate when senators on the Democratic side say, well, we won't really be doing anything about this because we don't have any meaningful options. They'll ignore our subpoenas. They'll laugh in our faces. That only feeds into this arrogance that Justice Alito is riding high on right now. This sense, as Michelle noted, that he is above everything and that he's able to flaunt it. It's in our faces. You know, Justice Alito is very cloistered. He does not have anyone in his circle to puncture this sense that he is above all public criticism and equal to Trump in the sense that no one can stop him because he has this sort of unlimited power. And I think that if Democrats don't even bother to try to puncture that sense of immunity that he has, if Democrats just give up and say, well, we tried a few subpoenas, they ignored them, so what can we do now? That's going to get Alito even further to the right. It's going to push him to new extremes, or at least allow him to reach those extremes within his bubble. And that is going to come out in his decisions. We are watching his decisions become increasingly unhinged. His questions from the bench are deranged at this point. His opinions are infused with radical Christian nationalism. If all Democrats can muster in a response to that is a shrug, then he will say, well, I guess no one really is going to stop me. And he will continue pulling the law in that very dark and dangerous direction.
I mean, so well said. And also, I mean, not the irony, the danger of a judge acting with impunity on the eve of potentially instilling in the next president, potentially Donald Trump, absolute immunity. I mean, the idea of a representative democracy appearing to dissolve before our very eyes. And, you know, Mark brings up, and you bring up, the infusion of Christian nationalism. When you look at what's happening in Congress, you look at what's happening in the legislative branch, vis-a-vis the Republican Party, you look what's happening in the judicial branch, 2 of the 3 branches of our government have become, you know, hotbeds of Christian fundamentalism.
Well, right. And I think that the same thing will follow the executive branch if Donald Trump is reelected, because, you know, he already has plans to bring in a whole entourage of people. I mean, Donald Trump is, you know, not a practicing Christian, although he might be a Christian nationalist in terms of his beliefs in kind of who should be privileged in our society. But in terms, he has plans to remake, or the people around him have plans to remake the entire executive branch. And this is just a kind of tiny example, a symbolic example of what that looks like. It's the sort of, it's just completely unaccountable. You know, yes, maybe we had norms and standards before, but, you know, you and what army is going to enforce them?
You know, Mark, this, you know, in the context of the broader history of the court, this has been the project of the right wing since Ronald Reagan. And
yes.
What is so astounding and to some degree appalling is the way in which it is in full flower, 40 years later, a dedicated effort to reverse social progress, dissolve the barrier between church and state, and see a right-wing takeover of the judiciary. It almost seems complete on a night like this.
Absolutely. I think the great lesson that the Reagan administration imparted on some of its younger foot soldiers like Mitch McConnell, who are now leading the Republican Party, is if you capture the courts, you don't even have to win elections. You know, passing laws through democracy is really unwieldy. It takes forever. It's expensive. And those laws can be repealed. Those lawmakers can be voted out. But when a judge does it, well, if you can't get that overturned on appeal because the Supreme Court has been captured as well, that's just the law of the land. And it may stay that way for decades. This has indeed been the project, and it does feel on a night like tonight like the project has succeeded. But I'll say, you know, for many decades, the conservative legal movement felt that they were failing. It took them nearly 50 years to overturn Roe. A lot of progressives might be dispirited today, but if they aren't playing the long game, then they really aren't playing to win at all.
Michelle Goldberg, Mark Joseph Stern, thank you guys for joining me on this unbelievable evening tonight. I appreciate it. We have a lot to get to this evening, including a new right-wing attempt to make Joe Biden into an assassin. Plus, Trump's latest rival and last rival for the Republican presidential nomination finally broke her silence today and did the thing everyone else in her party is doing. That's next.
T-Mobile savings, take one. Focus. Here's the line. At T-Mobile, you get tons of benefits and you can still save versus the other guys. Okay, I'll just do it. Check out the T-Mobile savings calculator and see how much you can save. And right now, we'll even pay off your phone when you switch.
Wow. Incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, with your home, auto, boat, and RV all bundled with Progressive, you've got the peace of mind to really wander.
Yeah, I just hope it stays this way. Once word gets out about these places, they tend to...
Are you done?
And there it is.
Well, at least your vehicles are protected. Let's hit the road.
Hey, fam. I am just at this beautiful lake that I just discovered, practicing gratitude, manifesting abundance.
When your child has moderate to severe eczema, it's okay for them to show off. Show off their clearer skin and noticeably less itch with Dupixent. Because children 6 months and older with eczema have plenty of reasons to show off their skin. With Dupixent, the #1 prescribed biologic by dermatologists and allergists, they can stay ahead of their eczema. It helps block a key source of inflammation inside the body that can cause eczema to help heal your child's skin from within. Serious allergic reactions can occur that can be severe. Tell your doctor about new or worsening eye problems, such as eye pain or vision changes, including blurred vision, joint aches and pain, or a parasitic infection. Don't change or stop asthma medicines without talking to your doctor. Show off to the world. Ask your child's eczema specialist about Dupixent.
What are you doing? Getting a Kelley Blue Book instant cash offer on the car. I can't bring this baby to New York. I enter a couple of details like license plate, miles, condition. I'll upload these photos and done. Wow, that was fast.
You've earned this, so hold it up high. This isn't a hobby, it's a lifestyle. You find diamonds in the rust to put your own stamp on stock parts, turning metal into murals and detailing every detail. Because it's the things you make that show what you're made of. You are a fighter, and this is your reward. Modelo, the mark of a fighter.
Allie, welcome to my favorite place.
Okay, this is gorgeous.
And here's the surprise. Everything here is from TJ Maxx.
Seriously, because I need 3 different looks. Girls' lunch, cocktail party, and a look for work.
So 3 styles that all say you.
100%.
Let's max your style. Can we get into this power suit, please? That color is everything.
Right?
You could totally walk the carpet in this, and it's under $100.
Zuri, you know I love a good sneaker.
14 karat gold, made in Italy.
Nice quilted bag.
Under $50.
Okay.
Memorial Day weekend is finally here, and More Furniture is celebrating with store-wide sale prices and free white glove delivery all weekend long. It's your chance for huge savings on furniture, mattresses, and accessories all under one roof. Why buy online when you can get real furniture at a real value and have it delivered and professionally installed for free? Visit your local More Furniture this Memorial weekend.
When a car breaks down, a race car driver would call a pit crew. You should call Endurance.
I've had 4 claims for over $8,700.
Without Endurance, breakdowns can cost thousands. With Endurance, you're covered, and you pick the mechanic you trust.
Right now, you can get $300 off any plan. Plus, a year of elite benefits, a $2,000 value, free. All backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee.
Call 1-833-879-4419 for a free quote.
Tommy John is for men who value themselves and their comfort, who want fabrics that are lightweight, breathable, and insanely soft, with stay-put waistbands that adapt for the perfect fit. 360-degree stretch prevents ride-up and supports any move you make, and mind-blowing innovations like our Quick Draw Fly. We've also reinvented loungewear. Yeah, loungewear. You can trust our thousands of 5-star reviews, because Tommy John knows how comfortable you are.
Donald Trump is turning the Republican Party into his own playpen, where it's all about him. But times change, and so has Trump. He's gotten more unstable and unhinged. So you can vote for him all day long, and he can come out of this primary, but he won't win a general. If you mock the service of a combat veteran, you don't deserve a driver's license, let alone being president of the United States. He showed that with that kind of disrespect for the military, he's not qualified to be the president of the United States, because I don't trust him to protect them.
No matter what Donald Trump thinks, he can't bully his way to the White House. It's not going to work.
That's what it sounded like when Nikki Haley was challenging Donald Trump for the Republican presidential nomination. And this is what it sounded like today.
Trump has not been perfect on these policies. I've made that clear many, many times. But Biden has been a catastrophe. So I will be voting for Trump.
Joining me now is Mark Leibovich, staff writer at The Atlantic. Mark, like the air going out of a balloon, I was struck by the feebleness of this. Are we calling it an endorsement? I guess we are. Did this strike you as a sort of planned event, a planned set of remarks for Nikki Haley this afternoon?
Yeah, I mean, it was clearly planned because she has not really said anything for a number of weeks, even months now. And this speech has been sort of, I guess, anticipated in so much as we would see, I guess, finally what she was going to do. I wouldn't call it a surprise. I certainly wouldn't call it a full-throated endorsement. But I think that her actually using the word catastrophe next to Joe Biden is actually quite devastating to the Biden campaign. I mean, the thing about Haley is you can do a greatest hits of flip-flops of pretty much every Republican out there. There's like a 2016 version, a 2020 version. Haley has one from like 2021, 2022, 2023. I mean, she's really illustrious, and you just had a good sampling here. But look, I mean, she's voting for Trump, and she obviously has a lot of people still voting for her. The question is, does she control those votes? And I think that's what made her words today quite important and potentially quite harmful to the Biden campaign.
Well, could you elaborate on that, about whether she controls her supporters? Because she did, in this endorsement, make it clear that she was going to support Biden, but she did not yet know if her she was going to support Trump, but did not yet know whether her supporters would support Trump, and encouraged him to continue his outreach to them. But to your point, is Nikki Haley calling Biden a catastrophe enough to move that sort of 20% of the electorate that's voting for, the ghost candidate, Nikki Haley, on these current primaries? Is that enough to move them back into the arms of Donald Trump?
Probably not, but I mean, catastrophe is a very strong word. I mean, she didn't have to go after Biden that hard. I mean, she could have said, I don't like this choice at all. He has not been perfect. And then, of course, she says he needs to continue to reach out, or he needs to reach out to the middle. Now, that's not going to happen. I mean, and I would be surprised if Donald Trump were gracious in the face of this quasi-endorsement from Nikki Haley. I mean, I think much more likely he will do the less than graceful thing, and frankly, the unstrategic thing, which, could be a saving grace to the White House here.
Mark, what does it tell you about the future of the Republican Party, even if Donald Trump loses in November? I think it's still worth noting Mitch McConnell, Bill Barr, Ted Cruz, these people who were seen as anti-Trump stalwart, had sharp words for Donald Trump, if not, never Trumpers, have all capitulated. And now Nikki Haley, who I think a lot of people pin their hopes on as sort of a person who could be the next generation of the Republican Party if Donald Trump's latest bid for the presidency ends in failure again. But as of today, I mean, what happens to the GOP?
It's dispiriting for people who are biased on the side of normalcy, I'll say that. I don't quite know what post-Trump Republican future Nikki Haley is waiting for. I mean, this is year number 8 of that. I mean, that's not happening anytime soon. And even if it did, I mean, I can't imagine a lot of people are going to be flocking to her. It's disappointing. And look, we know Trump. I mean, today, between the last couple of days and, the racist stuff about the judge, the unified Reich thing, I mean, they always have this trope about, well, I like a lot of his policies. And then you sort of drill down and you say, what policies are those? Do you like the child separation policy? Did you like the, end Obamacare, or, go against Ukraine? I mean, by the way, Nikki Haley was extremely supportive. I mean, she was really almost heroic in her support of Ukraine, quite alone in the Republican field. And of course, Donald Trump, we know what side he's on here. So anyway, it is dispiriting. Frankly, what always gets me is the people who know better. I think Nikki Haley is someone who knows better. But I also think it's pointed that she went after Biden in the way she did.
And I think it deserves just a moment to unpack what catastrophic might mean to Nikki Haley, because as a former U.S. UN ambassador, as someone who has a hawkish foreign policy position, who is decidedly at odds on a substantive level with everything Donald Trump supports, whether that's leaving NATO, whether that's not funding Ukraine, whether that's being in the pocket of Russia, it's hard to imagine how Trump is worse than Biden, how Biden is worse than Trump on any single piece of meaningful policy. And yet Biden's the catastrophe. I mean, do you think in her mind she's thinking of a laundry list of things beyond, I don't know, I guess Afghanistan?
I mean, I would say Afghanistan, and you know, she did talk a lot about the border. I mean, the border is kind of the go-to issue that a lot of Republicans will use when they're talking about Biden specifically. Now, I mean, you can drill down. You wonder, you know, what about Trump's policies, the wall he didn't build, the child separation thing? I mean, they usually don't have a good answer for that. But I mean, that's always a top 3 issue these days. So that's always the first thing people go to. Look, I mean, if Biden loses to Trump, it's a catastrophe. It's an absolute catastrophe. I don't think that's what Nikki Haley meant. I think Nikki Haley probably would find it more catastrophic if her, you know, ambition were thwarted on this level at all. But, you know, look, it's very disappointing, not at all surprising.
Yes, I absolutely agree. I never thought that we were headed for any other outcome other than this, but it doesn't make it any less appalling. Mark Leibovich from The Atlantic, my friend, it's always good to see you. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Alex.
Coming up, lawyers for Donald Trump were back in a Florida courtroom today trying to throw out the case against him, while Trump believes the Mar-a-Lago case is proof that Joe Biden wants to assassinate him. That is next.
I have moderate to severe Crohn's disease. Now there's Skyrizi.
Things are looking up. I've got symptom relief. Control of my Crohn's means everything to me. Control is everything to me.
Feel significant symptom relief at 4 weeks with Skyrizi, including less abdominal pain and fewer bowel movements. Skyrizi is the first IL-23 inhibitor that can deliver remission and visibly improve damage of the intestinal lining. And the majority of people experienced long-lasting remission at 1 year.
Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, had a vaccine, or plan to. Liver problems may occur in Crohn's disease.
Now's the time to ask your gastroenterologist how you can take control of your Crohn's with Skyrizi.
Control is everything to me.
Learn how AbbVie could help you save.
If you have moderate to severe ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease, put it in check with Rinvoq, a once-daily pill.
When symptoms tried to take control, I got rapid relief and reduced fatigue with Rinvoq. Check.
When flares kept trying to slow me down, I got lasting steroid-free remission with Rinvoq. Check.
And when my doctor saw damage, Rinvoq helped visibly reduce damage of the intestinal lining. Check.
For both UC and Crohn's, rapid symptom relief, lasting steroid-free remission.
And visibly reduced damage. Check, check, and check.
Rinvoq can lower your ability to fight infections, including TB, serious infections and blood clots, some fatal. Cancers, including lymphoma and skin. Heart attack, stroke, and GI tears occurred. People 50 and older with a heart disease risk factor have an increased risk of death. Serious allergic reactions can occur. Tell your doctor if you are or may become pregnant.
Put UC and Crohn's in check and keep them there with Rinvoq.
Ask your gastroenterologist about Rinvoq and learn how AbbVie can help you save.
Here's to Wisconsin's top restaurants, top art scene, top views, and top-rated stays. Here's to filling your heart all the way to the top. Here's to those who Wisconsin.
What are you doing? Getting a Kelley Blue Book instant cash offer on the car. I can't bring this baby to New York. I enter a couple of details like license plate, miles, condition. I'll upload these photos and done. Wow, that was fast.
I feel like I could hear the water crashing, and I envision myself standing right underneath the waterfall. I imagine myself walking through the forest and feeling a freshness.
You've earned this, so hold it up high. This isn't a hobby, it's a lifestyle. You find diamonds in the rust. You put your own stamp on stock parts, turning metal into murals, and detailing every detail. Because it's the things you make that show what you're made of. You are a fighter, and this is your reward. Modelo, the mark of a fighter.
Is someone trying to steal your Butterfinger? Call the BFI. Game over. No one lays a finger on your Butterfinger.
Numbers. They never lie. They tell it like it is. They don't lean politically to the left or to the right. In the end, numbers tell stories that words alone can't. And when you look at the world through numbers, somehow it all adds up.
A shocking new revelation. Pay close attention to this.
It is quite shocking what we have been able to glean based on what Judge Cannon has released.
Newly released court documents revealing shocking details about the FBI's August 2022 raid on Mar-a-Lago.
If you turned on Fox News in the past 24 hours, odds are you heard that there is a shocking new revelation that just came out of some newly unsealed court filings in Donald Trump's classified documents case. Today, one of Trump's co-defendants in that case, his body man, Walt Nauta, was in court trying to get the case tossed out, which wasn't all that shocking. What was shocking were the two never-before-seen photos we got from one of the newly unsealed filings showing Walt Nauta moving boxes all around Mar-a-Lago. But that wasn't the revelation that shocked Fox News. No. These newly unsealed filings also contain the revelation that classified documents were found in Donald Trump's bedroom 4 months after the FBI searched Mar-a-Lago. But again, nothing from Fox News on that revelation. Instead, the revelation that shocked Fox News was this.
Biden's politicized Attorney General Merrick Garland at Joe Biden's weaponized DOJ actually authorized, get this, the use of deadly force during that August 2022 raid at Mar-a-Lago.
Now, the issue here is that this is not true. The language in the Mar-a-Lago search warrant was boilerplates, words used in every FBI search warrant. It wasn't slipped in by the Department of Justice for this one search. But yesterday, after these filings were unsealed, here was the fundraising email Donald Trump sent his followers. It's just been revealed that Biden's DOJ was authorized to use deadly force for their despicable raid in Mar-a-Lago. You know they're just itching to do the unthinkable. Joe Biden was locked and loaded, ready to take me out. Reality would suggest otherwise. The FBI used kid gloves when they searched Mar-a-Lago. The agency informed the Secret Service in advance of its search. They used plainclothes officers to spare Trump as much embarrassment as possible. And crucially, they planned this search for when they knew Trump was in New York, more than 1,000 miles away. Despite all of those facts, right-wing media is picking up this lie that Joe Biden wanted to kill Donald Trump down at Mar-a-Lago, and they are running with it.
This was an attempted assassination attempt on Donald John Trump.
Why was Merrick Garland prepping for a possible, shootout? Why did agents roll up, guns at the ready?
Maybe they wanted the engagement of physical force, deadly force. Does that mean that Joe Biden was authorizing the FBI to if it came to that and he resisted arrest, it would be okay to kill Donald Trump?
It's not just right-wing media that's pushing this lie. Congressman Paul Gosar tweeted, Biden ordered the hit on Trump at Mar-a-Lago. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene tweeted, the Biden DOJ and FBI were planning to assassinate President Trump and gave the green light. President Biden was not trying to kill his political rival. But you know who doesn't think that's a bad idea? Donald Trump. His lawyers literally argued before the Supreme Court that as president, Donald Trump should be allowed to assassinate his political rivals. And where was the right-wing shock then? Congressman Dan Goldman joins me to discuss all of this, coming right up next.
Did we just get hustled?
There's no way they were 70.
Interesting.
It's both an electric and a gas car. Yep.
Quite the paradox.
Electric for short trips, gas for long. It really is both. The Lexus RX plug-in hybrid.
Get special offers on select Lexus models.
Ashley's Memorial Day sale is going on now. Shop our biggest selection of hot buys, cool deals, and shop limited time savings with 0% interest for 60 months or 0% interest for 72 months with select mattress purchases. Whether you're redecorating indoors or rethinking your outdoor space, save big on this season's trending styles. The best Memorial Day furniture and mattress deals are going on now. Visit your local Ashley store or ashley.com to shop and save today. Only at Ashley.
When a car breaks down, a race car driver would call a pit crew. You should call Endurance.
I've had 4 claims for over $8,700.
Without Endurance, breakdowns can cost thousands. With Endurance, you're covered. And you pick the mechanic you trust.
Right now, you can get $300 off any plan. Plus, a year of elite benefits, a $2,000 value, free. All backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee.
Call 1-833-879-8328 for a free quote.
I won't let my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis symptoms define me.
Emerge as you. With Tremfya, most people saw 90% clearer skin at 4 months, and the majority stayed clearer at 5 years.
Serious allergic reactions may occur. Tremfya may increase your risk of infections and lower your ability to fight them. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, or if you had a vaccine or plan to.
Emerge as you. Emerge Tremfyant. Ask your doctor about Tremfya.
BK melts full of flame grilled layers. Meet the new Philly, it's stacked with flavor. Juicy beef and melty cheese. All these toppings will make you say sheesh. BK, have it your way.
Get pumped! Chevron rewards are here. Download the Chevron app and join for $1 off per gallon on your next 3 visits. Then earn points on fuel and select in-store purchases to be redeemed for rewards on fuel. Terms and conditions apply. See ChevronTexacoRewards.com for details.
Here's to new beginnings. Salam alaikum.
In Dubai,
All you girls, you're all queens to me.
they reign supreme.
Don't steal my best friend. Follow me or you're against me. You disrespected my friend. You are a hypocrite, Sarah. Oh, that's Valentino.
The queens are back in a new season of The Real Housewives of Dubai, coming June 2nd on Bravo and stream season 1 on Peacock.
Tonight, the state of emergency here in Baltimore. Should people be concerned about the safety of flying today? Closer to the Gaza border.
Are you comfortable with the role the Supreme Court is playing in the 2024 election?
Is there not more that Israel can do to help the humanitarian crisis? Should abortion be the #1 issue in 2024? If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
McLaughlin on the inside. It's going to be Sydney's time again. And it's a world record again.
I can't imagine doing a race like this with somebody else. We're cold, we're wet, and we have no food.
I'm gonna keep going until I can.
What we care about is $500,000.
Race to Survive New Zealand. New episodes Mondays at 11 on USA.
More Americans turn to NBC News than any other news organization.
As former President Donald Trump's criminal trial continues, with more testimony from key witnesses. Watch, read, and listen for the latest analysis of Trump on trial. Stay with MSNBC.
Donald Trump's campaign against the Justice Department and the FBI has led to violence as well as threats against judges and law enforcement. And now Trump is claiming that the FBI and the Biden administration were out to kill him during the 2022 search of Mar-a-Lago. That is not a theory that is based in fact, but the consequences of it could could very well be real. Here was Senator Chuck Schumer on the floor of the Senate today.
What Donald Trump said, falsely suggesting his political opponents are out to kill him, is beyond the pale and is the stuff that leads to political violence. Everyone who was here on January 6th should immediately see what he's doing, what Donald Trump is doing, using conspiracy theories to spin the hard right into a frenzy. This is how people get killed, how the seeds of political violence are sowed, and how people lose faith in this democracy. Donald Trump has no regard for that.
Joining me now is Congressman Dan Goldman, Democrat of New York. He served as, of course, lead counsel in Trump's first impeachment. Congressman, it's great to see you. Thank you for being here tonight. I first want to just get your reaction to a video that Trump released earlier today accusing Joe Biden of being, quote, the real threat to our democracy. What do you make of that?
Well, look, I think Donald Trump and his Republican minions in the House consistently project and accuse Democrats of doing exactly what they are doing. There's, of course, no evidence that Joe Biden has done anything anti-democratic, anything to abuse the rule of law, abuse our criminal justice system. In fact, that is what Donald Trump has done and has promised to do in the future. So this is a way that Donald Trump tries to normalize authoritarian and fascist rhetoric so that it becomes accepted within at least the far right public and even beyond that to some degree. And it is completely unacceptable and it must be rejected. And the problem, Alex, is that there are no Republicans who are speaking out and saying that this is unacceptable. And this is how Nazi Germany became Nazi Germany, is that no one spoke out. And at some point, we are going to need Republicans, because we Democrats can say it all day long. Donald Trump doesn't care. It's actually, he probably thinks it's to his advantage. But we're going to need Republicans to call out this completely unacceptable, anti-democratic, authoritarian rhetoric and say that this is just not what happens in this country. Whether or not you have policies I like or don't like, we are not going to go down this road. But no one will do that.
I am, you mentioned that, and we just played some tweets from Marjorie Taylor Greene and Paul Gosar, who responded to this crazy, paranoid conspiracy so quickly. And I was really struck by the metabolism now between the sort of far-right fringy theories and the way those just circulate through the conservative bloodstream so rapidly, faster than it feels like ever before. Not only are Republicans not speaking out about it, they are adopting this as gospel in a matter of minutes, hours. Can you talk a little bit about the way this stuff has made its way into the halls of Congress within a 24-hour period?
Well, look, Marjorie Taylor Greene and her QAnon views would have been completely laughed out of Congress in 2018. Now, she is mainstream Republican at this point. And she and Paul Gosar, who have a crazy extremist, racist, anti-Semitic beliefs, are now credited as being legitimate MAGA Republicans because Donald Trump has adopted them for his own political expediency. But we cannot move the spectrum to the point where Marjorie Taylor Greene and Paul Gosar become normalized. And they're not normalized just simply because they support Donald Trump. But that is where this Republican Party is, and that is why it is so dangerous. Now, what they say has no relationship to the facts of anything, but they have a pulpit and they have increasing amounts of power in this Congress. And in a mere 6 years, Marjorie Taylor Greene has emerged as the face of the Republican Party. And that should scare everyone, whether you're Republican or Democrat.
Yeah, and it's not just the sort of domestic concern over all of this. There's also a geopolitical concern. Moscow The Kremlin propaganda machine has picked up on this and is having a field day with this. Read their headlines. FBI planned to kill Donald Trump. Details revealed in the USA. I mean, this is playing directly into Vladimir Putin's hands, Congressman.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, if she's not getting paid for being a Russian agent, she's missing out on money, because it is so clear that she is parroting Russian propaganda on the House floor in the Congress of the United States. And you don't have to take my word for it, Alex. You have the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee and the House Intelligence Committee, Republicans, who are saying the same thing. And what people do not seem to understand is that Marjorie Taylor Greene is simply moving the Overton window. She's moving the rhetoric so far to allow for Donald Trump to come behind her. But they are simpatico. They are hand in glove right now. And there's no question that Donald Trump has visions, as we saw from his video with the Unified Reich, which was a completely knowing and intentional inclusion in that video. Let's be real here. He is paving the way to become a Vladimir Putin, or to become an Adolf Hitler or a Kim Jong-un. That's what he wants to be. And all of this is in the lead up to paving the way for him to win this election and then to take over this country and literally to eliminate the democracy that we know.
When you speak of the elimination of democracy and the fact that you sit on the House Judiciary Committee, I have to ask if you have a reaction to the New York Times bombshell reporting tonight that Justice Samuel Alito has been flying an insurrectionist flag over his beach house, the second instance of far-right propaganda appearing in front of a justice's home. Do you have thoughts on that?
Oh, I have a lot of thoughts on that, Alex. Hank Johnson and I from Georgia led a letter yesterday, signed, I think, by close to 4 dozen Democrats, to Justice Alito, calling on him to recuse himself because of the initial upside-down, stop the steal flag signal political statement that was hanging from his house. And it doesn't matter why it was there or what it was there. He conceded that it was a political statement, and it is against the ethics rules, even the non-binding ethics rules of the Supreme Court, for anyone to for a justice to make a political statement. Now, he then is hearing cases related to the same conduct. That is as clear a conflict of interest as you can imagine for a judge. And if he doesn't recuse himself, he is jeopardizing the absolute legitimacy of the Supreme Court. Then today we learn that it wasn't an isolated incident. He can't just blame it on his wife. He now has another flag that is promoting Donald Trump and the effort to overturn the 2020 election. I will say this: if Justice Alito does not recuse himself from the Trump immunity case and the Fisher January 6th case, he will do irreparable damage to the Supreme Court. And Chief Justice Roberts must step in and make sure that he does not have any role in deciding these cases, because the entire legitimacy of the Supreme Court will be eviscerated.
Congressman Dan Goldman, it's great to hear from you tonight. Thanks for your time, sir.
Thank you.
Still ahead this evening, one day after Donald Trump indicated a willingness to restrict access to contraception, Senate Democrats have taken steps to protect birth control, and Senate Republicans seem unwilling to follow their lead. That story is next.
Stay ahead of your child's moderate to severe eczema, and they can show off clearer skin and less itch with Dupixent, the #1 prescribed biologic by dermatologists and allergists that helps heal your child's skin from within. Serious allergic reactions can occur that can be severe. Tell your doctor about new or worsening eye problems, such as eye pain or vision changes, including blurred vision, joint aches and pain, or a parasitic infection. Don't change or stop asthma medicines without talking to your doctor. Ask your child's eczema specialist about Dupixent.
Ashley's Memorial Day sale is going on now. Shop our biggest selection of hot buys, cool deals, and shop limited time savings with 0% interest for 60 months or 0% interest for 72 months with select mattress purchases. Whether you're redecorating indoors or rethinking your outdoor space, save big on this season's trending styles. The best Memorial Day furniture and mattress deals are going on now. Visit your local Ashley store or ashley.com to shop and save today. Only at Ashley.
One way to avoid expensive car repair bills is to be a race car driver. The other is Endurance.
Endurance saved me more than $7,000.
Without Endurance, breakdowns can cost thousands. With Endurance, you're covered.
Endurance covers nearly every car on the road. Plus,
you pick the mechanic you trust.
Acts now for $300 off any plan, plus a year of elite benefits and a 30-day money-back guarantee.
Call 1-877-204-1084.
Now.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer? Sleep Number does that.
Now save 50% on the Sleep Number limited edition smart bed, plus free home delivery when you add any base. Shop now at sleepnumber.com.
All the parts you need at the prices you want. Guaranteed to fit every time. So you can keep your ride or die alive.
Make the Sonicare switch.
What's the first thing you do in the morning?
I brush my teeth.
How did oral care become so important to you?
I think that smiling and laughing is really at the center of what I do, like as a comedian, so go to oral care supports that.
Okay, what's the next thing you do with your morning routine?
I always like to put on my bathrobe over my pajamas. It's kind of like being a dad in an 80s movie.
Yeah, you were definitely giving 80s dad in this moment right now. I can see it.
I hear you.
Nature's Bounty Hair Growth. Help grow thicker, fuller hair with just 1 capsule a day of Advanced Hair Complex. Conquer hair thinning.
And fall in love with your hair all over again.
Only from Nature's Bounty.
Unique style, cutting-edge innovation, and thoughtful details. Inspired by you. From the brand that delivers amazing ownership experiences. This is the all-electric RZ. This is Lexus. Electrified.
Get special offers on select Lexus models.
BK's Royal Crispy Wraps, break the routine, a hunger hack. Welcome new fiery buffalo, for both flavors you know where to go. BK, have it your way.
Are you comfortable with the role the Supreme Court is playing in the 2024 election?
Is there not more that Israel can do to help the humanitarian crisis? Should abortion be the #1 issue in 2024? If it's Sunday, it's Meet the Press.
Today, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer announced plans to fast-track a Senate vote on a bill called the Right to Contraception Act, which would protect access to contraception nationwide. Now, that announcement comes a day after Donald Trump signaled in a local TV news interview that he would be open to restricting birth control. Since then, Trump has tried to walk it all back, mostly. Yesterday, Trump posted on his social media network that he does not support a ban on birth control, and neither will the Republican Party. Joining me now is Minnie Timaraju, President and CEO of Reproductive Freedom for All. Minnie, it's great to see you. I am not convinced that this means there is going to be no infringement on contraception. We're not talking about abortion here. Contraception. Trump was asked, we're going to look at our contraception policy and have a policy on that very shortly. Things really do have a lot to do with the states. That was yesterday, and then today it was, we're not trying to restrict access to birth control. There's a gray area in there if you're a Republican. Those your morning after pill, any number of contraceptive measures could be up for grabs. How dangerous are we? What territory are we in right now?
Incredibly dangerous territory. And to be clear, we were in that territory as soon as Roe fell, right? The fall of Roe, Dobbs, signaled and opened up all of these, can of worms, Pandora's box, I don't know, all the metaphors. Look, when you believe in an ideology that life begins at conception, That's the root cause. That's the root goal for these folks who are really about power and control of our bodies. So if you believe in this theology, and the majority of Republicans do, remember, Mike Johnson and hundreds of Republicans in the House signed on to legislation stating that life begins at conception. This is how we got down this rabbit hole in IVF. We've always known in our movement that birth control was the end game. So for us, it is not a surprise, but it's like the believability gap we had around Roe.
Yeah.
It's really hard to believe because birth control is so popular. Everybody uses it, right? Just like IVF is becoming so, ubiquitous in society. So it's really hard to believe that a rational person would be anti-birth control, but when you understand who these extremists are and that they've been building towards this movement, it is less shocking. And we'll see in the Senate vote how many Republicans cross over. In the House, they didn't.
Yeah. When we talk about the Senate, the Senate vote that Chuck Schumer is calling for, it's failed before. They've tried to protect contraception before, and it's failed.
And in the House. And
in the House, as you mentioned. I do wonder, given the polling, that 17% of Americans in battleground states do not, 17% believe that Biden is responsible for the fall of Roe. It feels like there's a messaging gap, and it feels like efforts like the one Schumer is spearheading in the Senate are kind of a necessary corrective to all of that, to remind people of where the parties stand on basic issues of reproductive freedom.
It's a brilliant move by Leader Schumer. It's super smart. They're doing right to contraception and IVF votes at the same time to underscore a point. You might have seen that, Ted Cruz and Katie Britt tried to have their own IVF legislation. Tammy Duckworth is the author of the Senate bill. She made it really clear, again, unless you're directly addressing IVF, directly addressing protecting birth control, I mean, it's all distraction on their part, but it tells you that they're running scared.
Yeah.
It's really important that Senate Democrats draw this line. It's also important that we keep repeating as allies to the
could be confusing.
Yeah. So we're going to show that video. The audience can decide, did Donald Trump actually know what that word meant when he was answering a question about it?
Well, he's about to find out because Democrats are not letting go of this one.
It's a real issue now. Yep.
It is. Have a good show.
Thank you. Well, for every day of Donald Trump's almost 78 years of life, FBI agents have carried guns everywhere they go. But Donald Trump is now pretending that he didn't know that. No one insults the intelligence of Trump voters more than Donald Trump. And I am sure that most voters who vote for Donald Trump are smarter than Donald Trump. And they vote for Donald Trump simply because they hate taxes as much as he does, or they think abortion is murder. But the people who send money to Trump, who are a tiny, tiny percentage of Trump voters, really must be every bit as stupid as Donald Trump insists that they are. Because today, Donald Trump is raising money from those poor people who should know better but don't by sending an email saying, breaking from Trump, Biden's DOJ was authorized to shoot me, exclamation point. It's just been revealed that Biden's DOJ was authorized to use deadly force for their despicable raid in Mar-a-Lago. You know they're just itching to do the unthinkable. Joe Biden was locked and loaded, ready to take me out and put my family in danger. Okay. None of the dangerously stupid people who send money to Donald Trump in response to that email know that the FBI scheduled the serving of the search warrant at that Florida location when they knew for a fact that no one named Trump was actually there. They did it in the summer when Trumps are thousands of miles away in